You set a simple boundary, and suddenly you're spiraling in guilt. You ask for space, and they call you selfish. You try to protect your peace, and somehow you're the one accused of breaking the family. If that hit your chest like a ton of bricks, this video is for you. Because if you've ever walked away from a conversation wondering, did I overreact? If you've ever felt like a terrible person for needing space, if you've ever questioned your worth just because you didn't want to play the same exhausting role anymore, you're not broken. You're not selfish. And no, you're not the problem. You're just someone who's learning to protect your energy in a world or family that was never taught how to honor boundaries. And I get it. I've been there too. When I first started setting boundaries, it wasn't liberating at first. It was terrifying. My heart would race. My voice would shake. And afterward, I sit in silence questioning whether I just made a huge mistake. Because growing up, I was taught to be easy, to be agreeable, to not make waves. So when I said, that doesn't work for me, even gently, it felt like I was starting a war. Not because I was unkind, but because I was no longer easy to control. And maybe that's what you're feeling right now too. That tug of war inside of you between honoring yourself and keeping everyone else comfortable. So let's get one thing straight. Setting a boundary is not an attack. Needing space is not disrespect. And protecting your peace is not selfish, my friends. Let's talk about why it feels so hard and how to shift that guilt into grounded clarity. First, here's the truth. Most of us weren't taught. If your boundaries threatened the relationship, it wasn't a healthy relationship to begin with. Let me say that again. If your simple, respectful boundary causes someone to lash out, guilt trip you, or cut you off, that says more about their need to control than it does about your right to have limits. Most of us come from systems where boundaries were either ignored, punished, or never modeled at all. Maybe love looked like over-functioning. Maybe connection was tied to compliance. Maybe your safety was rooted in how small and quiet you could be. So when you begin to claim your space, it feels unfamiliar, dangerous even. Your nervous system might respond with guilt, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something new. And in survival terms, new equals unsafe. Here's what helped me rewire that internal response. I started by naming the guilt without judging it. Instead of pushing it away, I'd say, okay, guilt, I see you. I know why you're here, but this time, I'm still choosing me. Because here's the thing, guilt isn't always a sign you're wrong. Sometimes guilt is just the echo of old conditioning. And you don't have to obey it. I also started asking myself a very different question. Instead of, what if they think I'm selfish? I'd ask, what if abandoning myself again is actually the greater harm? Because I realized that every time I said yes when I meant no, every time I stayed silent when something hurt, every time I over-explained to prove I wasn't mean, I was slowly teaching myself that my comfort didn't matter, that my truth was too much, that peace only belonged to others, not to me. And I reached a point where I couldn't do that anymore. Not without paying the price with my body, my mind, and my spirit. So if you're in that place now, here's what I want you to remember. Your boundary might disappoint someone, but it's not your job to manage their disappointment. Your no might feel harsh to someone used to your silence, but it's still valid. You don't owe anyone access to your energy just because they're used to taking it freely before. And no, honoring your limits doesn't make you a bad daughter, or a bad sibling, or a bad friend. It means you're finally loving yourself in real time. The people who love you, the ones who are capable of healthy connection, they'll adjust. They might not understand it at first, but they'll respect your need for space, your need for clarity, and your need for rest. And the ones who don't, they were only ever comfortable with the version of you that didn't have boundaries. Let that sink in. If your growth makes someone withdraw love from you, what they're offering wasn't love, it was control. So here's what I want to leave you with. Your boundary is not the problem, my friends. Your guilt is not a sign to go back. It's just a sign that you're healing. And healing rarely feels good in the beginning. But peace comes after the storm of discomfort. And you deserve peace. Not because you earned it, not because you exist, because your needs are valid, because your body, your spirit, your life, they're not here to be sacrificed for someone else's comfort. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to have a voice, and you're allowed to be loved in a way that doesn't require you to disappear. If this resonates with you, I want to hear your story. Drop a comment, share your boundary you're working on, or just leave a heart so we know we're not alone. And if you want more content on healing, growth, and reclaiming your voice, don't forget to subscribe. Like this video. This space is for you, my friends. You were never the problem. You were just the one brave enough to say, enough. And that's not guilt-worthy. That's power. Until next time, my friends, take care.